As dawn broke, Chu Feng tiptoed up, when preparing to light a fire to light the railway and pass through that locked house. He wished he could press himself against the wall across the street. The shadow in his heart from last night was just too great, although he had 1,000 reasons in his heart. But he also understood that when Master wanted to speak, he would naturally tell him. With a chicken coop on my head, I yawned and walked into the yard. Su Yao followed behind me with 2 panda eyes. I thought to myself, this girl must have been really scared last night. By now, the returning soul was no longer guarding the house. Master Chu Feng had already arranged it quickly. The bear paw soup in the bowl and chopsticks was emitting a rich aroma. Having an apprentice to serve is already enjoyable. I happily took a sip of soup, then suddenly remembered something. By the way, yesterday, there were 2 men in black wielding curved blades. I tried to mess with you, but I casually made you look like you. Chu Feng's chopsticks. With a thud, it fell onto the table, clenching its fist so tightly, making a sound. But when he saw the concerned look in my eyes, he still suppressed that murderous intent. Go back. The sound of his fist peak was a bit hoarse. The lion has caused trouble for Master. Stop with my rambling. I added a piece of bear meat to his bowl. If the Master doesn't protect his disciple, is he still going to keep him for the new year? I saw Chu Feng's Adam's apple move, burying his head and digging into his food. Chu Feng, this kid's Adam's apple bobbed as he buried his head and started eating hard. It seemed to be hiding the reddened eyes in her eyes. Okay, after a long pause, she asked me in a low voice, Master, I cultivated so quickly. Could it be that his foundation is unstable and he goes astray? Your body is G melee, thunderous and piercing, causing trouble at will. I waved my hand with greasy face. But just knowing how to cultivate is nothing to deal with. I'll take you to their lair to practice your skills. As I spoke, I took out the 9-colored beast swap dog. He stuffed it in like giving an apple. He wanted to decline. I disdainfully pushed his hand away. Save it to lick it after the meal. This stuff is even more potent than erguatu for me. After the meal, that girl Su Yang was actually bold enough to jump around at the door of the Sword Hero's room. Chu Feng watched so much his eyelids twitched. I leisurely lie at the door, basking in the sun, watching his apprentice bustling about, happily considering whether he should get 2 little dishes tonight and find an exceptionally high-quality apprentice. Please take flight immediately. Host. My host's quality suddenly sounded. I jumped up like a carp. Puzzled, there wasn't even a ghost on this street. Suddenly, a thunderous boom rumbled, and dust filled the air. I stared in shock at the crater floor in the blacksmith's yard. A girl lying there looked like a blood-red gourd, feeling uneasy. I couldn't help but wonder, this system delivery is way too hardcore. It's just an airdrop. Hi. The girl struggled to lift her head. Seeing the 3 of us gathered by the pit, she quickly drew a broken sword, although he couldn't even stand steadily, but his gaze was fierce like a little leopard in a desperate situation. What are you trying to do? I saw the girl was weak, about to collapse at any moment. Chu Feng then said that Master was going to pour him a glass of water. I quickly gave Su Yao a meaningful look. Yao helped him inside. Su Yao understood and jumped into the pit. He lifted him up with one hand. The girl's pupils contracted as she began to look at her with a strange expression. I guess I just can't figure it out. This blacksmith, who doesn't have a trace of sharpness, how could he have such a loud voice? Don't put on a stern face. Sit down. I casually dragged an iron stool. In the past, he smiled like the uncle next door. The girl named Monsieur hesitated for a moment, then still let out a cough of blood. But the broken sword in his hand gripped even tighter. It seems Strong Chu is not just a strong warrior with a sense of vigilance. The wind stirs and water flows forth. Mu Shui took the broken tea jar, her knuckles turning white, but she still didn't take a single sip. I thought to myself, this girl is pretty guarded. So half-jokingly, he asked him, Girl, how did you fall from the sky? So half-jokingly, she asked him, Miss, how did you fall from the sky? If you encounter a flight without a driver's license. Mu Shui snorted coldly, having been ambushed by her fellow senior sister. I immediately put on a show and looked around, but he spoke coldly again. Stop looking. Those chasing me have been left 100 miles behind. So this girl's name was Mu Shui. She was once the favored daughter of the Qingyun sword sect, but the sect leader's daughter conspired with outsiders to take it away. Heaven has given birth to swords and weapons, and even sent people to hunt and kill them all the way. This time, after finally escaping, the injuries were too severe and the force was exhausted. Plucked down from mid-air, TSK. The cultivation world is really dark. I sighed inwardly. That's right, the system has already told me about this girl's ancestry spanning 18 generations. How about Miss Mu becoming my disciple? I got impulsive. Suddenly, the tattered rag art wiping sweat from my hands. He scared Chu Feng off the teapot in his hand. Su Yao's eyes lit up. Finally, I'm about to have a junior sister, but Mushui looked at me in disbelief. How do you know I have a crush? Then they say, whether you take a disciple or not. I asked again with a cheerful smile. I saw Mu Shui's tangled nails almost digging into her flesh, probably because she couldn't figure it out. How could a mere mortal blacksmith possibly know his scar? There's also a disciple at Foundation Establishment stage attending to him nearby. My master is really something. Serving my master by the side is really something. Chu Feng quickly helped with the gun nearby. That fanatic little demeanor really pleased me. Alright, Mu Shui finally nodded, probably because they thought the sword bone was gone anyway. A rotten life, no matter who you apprentice, it doesn't matter. From today onward, you are my 3rd disciple, Lin Fan. I cheerfully pointed at Su Yao and Chu Feng. This is your eldest senior sister and 2nd senior brother Mu Shui, properly performing the apprenticeship ceremony. But when he looked up and saw Su Yao, he was clearly stunned for a moment. Such a tiny guy, it's actually a senior sister and junior sister. Huh? Su Yao slept with her hands behind her back, looking so old lively that we all laughed. After all, cultivation swords, strength has always been the most important. Who cares? Age. I asked Su Yao to take Mu Shui to wash up, and just as I finished speaking, this little girl was so anxious she dragged her into the house, and the boy was just a bit nervous, staring at the host as if they've picked up a new toy. Congratulations to the host on having 3 apprentices, rewarding a big gift pack. 1 invincible Vajra body advance to the immortal chaos body. 2. Absolute defense skill successfully unlocked. 3. Mu Shui obtains the Nirvana 9-turn sword bone and unlock the extraordinary skill retreat retreat retreat. I stared at the glittering golden system. The panel frowns endlessly. The chaos body sounds pretty intimidating. Absolute defense, this is way too low-key. Keeping a low profile, I tried silently telling myself to be absolutely defenseless. Goodness, I didn't even have a light ring on my body, as if nothing had happened. I wondered if this thing was a counterfeit or inferior product. System, come out for me. What exactly is this skill for? Ding absolute defense passive skill does not need to be activated. It can ignore all laws of the world, attack, and be immune to any harm. And it reflects 100% physical impact. Sounds pretty impressive. Then what the hell is my disciple Mu Shui about retreat back and retreat? As long as you put your hands on your hips and step forward with your left foot, shouting a retreat back 3 times in succession creates an invincible aura. Forcefully repel any form of attack or enemy from 10 miles away, regardless of level differences. My mouth twitched. Pulling together is a force displacement skill. The rewards given by this system are way too casual. It also has the attributes of a square dance auntie. I was just complaining to myself, then he saw Mu Shui, freshly washed, push the door open and come out. The girl who was just covered in blood, now he had changed into coarse cloth clothes, yet it still couldn't be concealed. That cool and aloof aura, standing there like a moving iceberg. The temperature in the courtyard has dropped by several degrees. I looked at Mu Shui, now completely refreshed, and asked him. Looking at Mu Shui, now completely refreshed, she asked him, "How am I feeling now? I just casually helped you reattach the sword bone to Mu Shui." After hearing that, she was clearly stunned. Chu Feng, standing nearby, was anxiously stomping his feet. "Junior sister, try it out. The opportunities Master gave you are truly awesome." I watched Mu Shui close her eyes, half believing, and suddenly he shuddered all over. A surge soared to the sky, erupting from within him, soaring straight into the clouds. The sword bone I lost has actually returned. And stronger than before. He suddenly looked up at me as if he'd seen a ghost. I calmly waved the basic operations, telling them not to make a fuss. "Let me teach you a life-saving tip. When facing danger, place your hands on your hips and step forward with your left foot. Step by step, shout 3 times, retreat, retreat." Mu Shui immediately went all out. That eternal icy face rarely showed cracks. Chu Feng, this kid was excited, rubbing his hands as he walked. "I want to spar with my junior sister and give it a try. This new skill is coming." With a wave of my hand, I led the 3 of them toward the backyard. Passing by that locked house, I noticed Mu Shui curiously glanced a bit more at the room where the hero was. Once in the backyard, Chu Feng immediately made a gesture. Even though the junior sister made a move, Mu Shui looked at me hesitantly, and only after I nodded in agreement did she hand over her congratulations. He had just shouted, "Senior brother, you've offended me," before he could finish speaking. His entire body had already turned into a blur, charging toward Chu Feng. I can tell he hasn't used his power, probably afraid of hurting this seemingly silly second senior brother. But unexpectedly, Chu Feng suddenly squatted down on the ground, hugging his head, shouting at the top of my lungs, "I am a little mushroom." He instantly froze into a ball. I helplessly supported myself and sighed. This silly disciple took all the skills he taught and survived. Mu Shui's offensive did not wane, but just as the sword was about to touch Chu Feng's clothes, that fierce sword aura twisted and turned, and with a loud bang, a half-meter deep crater was smashed into the ground. When it shattered, it brushed against Chu Feng's pant leg and flew over. What a crazy sight. Mu Shui, unconvinced, thrust her sword again. This time, he increased his spiritual power, but the sword energy seemed to hit a magnet of the same level. She forcibly turned a right angle right in front of him, and struck a nearby large tree. Chu Feng was still trembling as he squatted with his junior sister and brother. "Is my invincible mushroom shield awesome?" I stroked my chin and watched, exclaiming it was thrilling. He thought this skill was like grinding the laws of physics to the ground. Su Yao kept clapping from the side. His eyes lit up as if he discovered a new toy. Applauding energetically, her eyes shining as if she discovered a new toy. "It's my turn, it's my turn." Chu Feng also rubbed his hands eagerly and stood up, urging him. "Junior sister, show off your ultimate move." I saw Mu Shui's ears instantly turn red. He made those shame-filled moves and mantras. How did this icy beauty manage to do it? He could only cast me a pleading look. I grinned mischievously and shouted at Chu Feng, "I suggest you give it your all." I saw a clear chill run down Chu Feng's back, but the arrow was on the string and had to be released. He could only sink in anger. His dantian was filled with thunderous light. A punch, carrying the power of violent thunder, straight at Mu Shui's face. "Retreat, retreat, retreat." Mu Shui was pushing her to the limit, eyes closed, hands on hips, left foot stepped forward, and she shouted. His whole face was already so red it looked like it was about to bleed. Bang! Under the shocked gazes of all of us, Chu Feng was like being hit by a speeding psychic train, rushing over, flying backward at 10 times the speed, drawing a perfect parabola in midair. It flew straight out of the town's boundary, not even a shadow could be seen. The courtyard instantly fell silent, leaving only the sound of the wind. Su Yao opened her mouth wide, and the half-piece of cucumber in her hand fell to the floor. Mu Shui stared blankly at her own hands. His eyes were filled with disbelief. I swallowed hard. This is called a chicken leg. This is practically a cannon on Earth. After a full half hour, Chu Feng finally ran back from outside the town, covered in dust and dirt. Her hair was blown into a bird's nest by the wind. Looking at Mu Shui, her eyes were filled with respect and awe. Your move is way too ruthless. I almost thought it was too hard to see me. Mu Xue's face flushed bright red as she lowered her head. I whispered, sorry, and laughed heartily. All right, this is our Blacksmith's regular program. Everyone practiced well. Tonight, we had a snack of grilled bear paw. In the following days, the blacksmith shop returned to its usual calm. Every morning, I took Chufeng to forge metal, and Su Yao was in charge of cooking. Mu Xue was chopping firewood in the courtyard, saying it was chopping. Actually, the broken axe I gave him for chopping firewood, but the fragment of the ancient heaven-splitting axe. Every swing he made was tempering his nirvana. 9 turns of sword bone. At first, this girl felt wronged, but the genius Zhenxiu was wronged. He ended up chopping wood every day, but when he realized that the spiritual power within him had become several times purer than before. Moreover, when the sword bone faintly emitted a golden light, chopping firewood with more enthusiasm than anyone, he even skipped sleep at night, just missing the wood in the yard. All the heads were split into toothpicks. At noon that day, Chufeng was by the stove, sweating the iron shirtless with no back flowing down his firm muscles. I sat on the lounge chair beside me, drinking the spirit tea Su Yao had just brewed, living a truly comfortable life. Suddenly, the wooden door of the blacksmith shop was kicked open with a loud bang. The door panel flew straight into the yard and struck the iron needle, sparking everywhere. I frowned and sat up. Who the hell is so rude, daring to break down my door? I saw several people in blue Taoist robes standing at the entrance. Leading them was a middle-aged man with a sharp face and monkey-like face. His entire body exuded the aura of golden core lacquer. Behind her followed a young woman with her chin lifted up to the sky. The woman was dressed in splendid clothes. In his hand was a dazzling sword. Just by looking at the scene, I can tell. Trouble to get on the horse. The moment Mu Xue saw that woman, the firewood chopping suddenly stopped. Her whole body trembled uncontrollably. Her eyes instantly turned red. Gritting her teeth, she squeezed out a few words. Liu Ruyan. So this was the young sect master of the Qingyunjian sect who had dug up Mu Xue's sword bone. The woman named Liu Ruyan swept her gaze around with contempt. The eyes of this dilapidated courtyard finally fell on Mu Xue. Covering her mouth, she giggled coquettishly. At that time, I fled to. Mouth smiled coquettishly. Where did he run off to at that time? It turned out she was hiding in this foul-smelling iron shop as a miscellaneous mess. Junior sister Mu Xue's days without sword bone were tough. Mu Xue was trembling with anger. Grabbing that broken axe, he was about to charge forward, but Chufeng grabbed him, holding him behind his back in his hand. Holding a freshly pounded red-hot iron hammer, he stared coldly at the other side. Who are you, daring to cause trouble on my master's turf? The middle-aged man snorted coldly. A mere mortal blacksmith shop dares to boast so shamelessly. This old man is the Azure Clouds. The Sword Sect's law enforcement elder has come today to arrest traitors from our sect. Mu Xue, knowing her place, hurriedly handed him over. Otherwise, even your lousy shop would be leveled down. I laughed when I heard that. Slowly rising from the lounge chair, he brushed the grey-blue clouds off his body. The Sword Sect had never heard of it. But once you enter the blacksmith shop, you're my people. You came in and smashed the door. How do you count the front door? The law enforcement elder seemed to have heard a huge laugh, one without even spiritual power. Ordinary people are like ants. He actually dared to ask a golden core cultivator for the door. His gaze turned cold, and he casually swung out a sword aura, aiming straight at my face. Chufeng was shocked and alarmed. Master, be careful. Without thinking, he directly blocked my hands with both hands. He squatted down with his hands on his head. I am a little mushroom. That sword energy powerful enough to split a mortal in two struck a foot around Chufeng, like a clay ox sinking into the sea. Not even a splash was made. It vanished without a trace. The people across from them were all dumbfounded. Liu Ruyan's eyes widened. How could Elder Wang's angry strike? He didn't even tear this kid's clothes. Elder Wang was also full of disbelief. The sword energy refined by the dignified golden core was actually neutralized by a strange posture. Chufeng crouched on the ground, looking up at them with a wide smile. The consultation wasn't enough. Elder Wang, who tickled me, was furious and humiliated. Draw the long sword on his back. Pretend to be a trick and die for me. He transformed into a shallow sword light, stabbing at Chufeng. This is the ultimate skill of the Qingyun sword sect, rising straight to the sky. The sword's momentum is like a rainbow arm, leaving no place to set the Chu wind. This kid knew this move was powerful, but he just didn't understand. Just like that, clutching her head, squatting there with a loud bang. The tip of the sword struck precisely above Chufeng's head. A strange scene unfolded. Elder Wang felt as if his sword had pierced an unshakable divine mountain, with a massive counterformation. A crack came along the blade of the sword. A tremendous counterforce surged along the blade with a crack. His proud earth-rank mid-body zero sword shattered inch by inch. Elder Wang spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. He was thrown backward, crashing at the doorway, his eyes filled with terror. What kind of dark art is this? Liu Ruyan was so frightened her face turned pale that she kept retreating. Chufeng stood up and patted his face full of pride. My master's invincible mushroom shield is invincible. I nodded in satisfaction. Although this kid usually looks simple-minded, but at the critical moment, he was still quite protective of Mu Xue. Watching this scene, tears welled up uncontrollably. Although he was a genius in the Qingyun sword sect before, but everywhere you go, you are schemed against. No one had ever protected him so unconditionally. Chufeng turned to look at Liu Ruyan, his gaze turning icy cold. I thought my junior sister had met me, but since I'm here today, don't even think about fully stepping out of here. Willow like mist, forcing himself to stay calm. He shouted sternly, "How dare you touch me? I am the young sect master of the Qingyun sword sect. My father was one of the 7 great talents of Yuan Ying. If you dare touch even a finger of mine, Qingyun sword sect will surely make sure you die without a grave." I dug at my ear and walked over to Chu Feng. He took the broken iron hammer wooer from his hand. Why waste words with someone like that? If you can get hands on, try not to make a fuss. After saying that, I weighed it in my hand iron hammer. Looking at Liu Ruyan, is it really impressive that your father is a powerful Yuan expert? Today, I'll teach your father a lesson for you. Liu Ruyan, watching me, a mortal with no spiritual power, walk past with a broken iron hammer. A trace of panic flashed in his eyes, but I still forced myself to pull it out. That dazzling sword, don't come any closer. This is a heaven grade 0 sword that can slay you, a mortal, in just a thought. I ignored him and casually smashed the hammer down. Liu Ruyan raised her sword in terror, and with a loud crash, under everyone's incredulous gazes, that heavenly grade 0 sword, said to cut through iron like mud, like a piece of fragile glass. My hammer, used for forging iron, shattered it into countless fragments. Moreover, the hammer's lingering power remains undiminished. Crashing down his arm with a bang, Liu Ruyan screamed and knelt down on the ground. Wu Jian's right hand directly collapsed, his spiritual power scattered, and the cultivation he was proud of, under this blow. He was completely wiped out and died on the spot. In the usual silence, Liu Baolao lay on the ground, trembling with fear, not even daring to breathe. A mortal smashed it with a hammer, a heaven grade 0 sword, and even crippled Xiao Songzi. Is this even a mortal? This is simply a monster. Mu Shui stared at me blankly, tears streaming down her face. Finally, I couldn't help but fall. He had thought he would never get revenge in this lifetime. Unexpectedly, the master's casual hammer. He then knocked down the enemy he once looked up to dust. I threw the hammer to Chu Feng. Turn your head and watch Mu Shui go. You handle the rest yourself. Mu Shui took a deep breath and wiped away her tears. Carrying that broken axe, he walked step by step to Liu Ruyan. Liu Ruyan no longer showed any trace of arrogance. She crawled backward in fear. Don't come any closer. I'll give you back the sword bone. Please spare me. Mu Shui's gaze was icy cold. My sword bone has already been molded by Master Shong, that filthy thing of yours. I dislike it. When you dug out my sword bone cave for cultivation, today I also exhaust your meridians and severances. You rise with your hands, like willows like mist, let out a scream as miserable as a pig being slaughtered. He had completely become a cripple. Elder Wang saw that the situation was unfavorable. I scrambled and scrambled out of the yard, sneering. I wanted to leave before I even lost money. I casually picked up a broken door panel from the ground and threw it over. Right in the middle. Elder Wang's back. He spat out a mouthful of blood with a thud and passed out, throwing these 2 pieces of trash out. Don't dirty our yard. 2 pieces of trash thrown out, don't get dirty. I yawned in our courtyard. Turning around, I prepared to go back inside and catch up on my nap. Chu Feng was like the 6th little chick. He threw those 2 onto the main road. This drew a crowd of townspeople from the surrounding towns. Mu Shui stood in the courtyard, watching my back. Suddenly, with a thud, he knelt down. He kowtowed heavily 3 times, paying his respects to Master's great kindness. The evening snow is unforgettable for a lifetime. From now on, Mu Shui's life belongs to Master, and I have no regrets even if I wave my hand. Chop wood properly. Don't slack off. Eat less meat for dinner. Actually, I felt quite pleased inside. This fake is practically perfect. If I weren't afraid of shattering my persona, I'd want to howl 3 times to the sky. In the evening, Su Yao prepared a sumptuous dinner. A pot of white goose stewed with century-old He Shou Wu fills half the street. The 4 of us, master and apprentice, gathered around the stone table, feasting in the evening snow, though I indulge in refined taste. But the speed at which he picked up his chopsticks was anything but slow. Sure enough, he completely let go of his heart. While dining at this bizarre blacksmith shop, I casually mentioned something. In a few days, the Grand Disciple Acceptance Ceremony of the Qianxian sect will officially begin. The town must be lively. Let's go join in too. Buy some of the finest iron ore. Chu Feng's eyes lit up as soon as he heard that. Master, do you want to take it again? Not wanting to take on disciples anymore, I glared at him. Take disciples? With you 3, I'm satisfied. I'll go check if there are any cheap crystals. Chu Feng scratched his head. Hee, silly smile. While Mu Shui seemed to be deep in thought, he knew that the Qianxian sect held great power in this area. Moreover, it is said that Lang Qingqiu, the reincarnation of the 9 Nether Mysterious Maiden, is also from the Qianxian sect. Thinking of the chilly autumn, I pictured that day when I blocked his stone on the street. The woman was as proud as a peacock. I don't know if I'll run into him this time, but it doesn't matter, as long as he doesn't provoke me. I couldn't be bothered to pay him any attention, just ate and drank my fill. Everyone returned to their rooms to rest. In the middle of the night, the locked storage room started to get restless again. The bronze swordsman let out a buzzing, sly cry again, and this time it was even more intense than before. Even the door was shaking. I was tossing and turning over from the noise, unable to sleep, and I was extremely angry. Is this broken swordsman ever finished? Do they really think I'm good-tempered? I put on my clothes and stormed out the door. He found that Chu Feng and Mu Shui were also standing in the courtyard. The 2 stared gravely at that room. Could something be sealed inside the master's room? The ancient peerless fierce demon Chu Feng whispered. Fierce my ass. He's just a worthless scrap of metal. I took it out, just a worthless scrap to get beaten. I took out my key and opened the door. The swordsman was trembling violently. A blood-red glow appeared on the surface. A faint surge of murderous energy surged to the heavens, trying to break through the seal. Mu Shui's eyes flashed with shock. What kind of sword energy is truly terrifying, master? What kind of sword is this sword warrior? I walked over. Without hesitation, he kicked the sword case to quiet down. In the middle of the night, how can people still sleep? Keep making a fuss. Tomorrow I'll use you to melt and chop a hoe. The swordsman seemed to refuse to back down. As for me, the red light flickered several times, and it actually quieted down for a moment. But that sinister aura still lingered in the room, lingering for a long time. Chu Feng and Mu Shui were dumbfounded. The dignified fierce sword was kicked by the master and then kicked the teacher. Just how unfathomably high is Chu Zun's cultivation? I yawned and locked the door, and saw it and went back to sleep. Tomorrow, there will be another fire. The two of them put my luggage and then left. His eyes were filled with fervent admiration for me. From then on, my days were very simple, with Chu Feng and Mu Shui under my guidance, yet his cultivation in blacksmithing and chopping would truly travels 1,000 miles in a day. Chu Feng's annihilation thunder became increasingly refined. With one swing of the hammer, purple electric sparks exploded from the furnacy Mu Shui's 9th turn of Nirvana. The Nirvana 9-turn sword bone also began to take shape, although he was still chopping wood with that broken axe, but every swing carried a hint of suggestion to tear through space. Su Yang tried different ways every day. He cooked for us with all kinds of top-grade spiritual herbs, things like 1,000-year-old blood stewed with ribs, 10,000-year-old snow lotus cooked into porridge. They managed to train our bodies like monsters. Finally, the day of the Qianqian sect's disciple acceptance ceremony arrived. The entire town was packed to the brim. Everywhere you look, you'll find talented young people and rogue cultivators from all over. Everyone wants to make a good fortune in this world's greatest sect. I was pushing a broken wooden cart with 3 apprentices, strolling around the market. The cart was loaded with farming tools and idle pots we had made over the past few days. He claimed to be here to sell goods. In fact, they were just here to join the fun and buy some iron ore for master while you're at it. On this day, Emperor Xuanzong's grand ceremony was truly grand. Chu Feng looked toward the distant gate outside the Qianqian sect's mountain gate, the huge white jade plaza side. What's the use of being big? Inside were all a group of Daoist figures. The hypocritical Mu Shui said coldly. He had never had much fondness for these prestigious and upright sects. Damn, biting on a grass root on the cart. Ignoring them. Let's sell our iron pots. 5 pieces of low-quality snacks in 1 bite. No bargaining. It's up to me. Hurry up and take a bite. No bargaining. Just as we set up our stall and were about to open, a discordant voice came through. Where did these bumpkins come from? Rushing to the foot of the Qianqian sect's mountain gate, selling this junk fire at a street stall. We looked up. Several young men dressed in the uniforms of disciples from the Qianqian sect were arrogantly walking over to lead them. It was that very day, in the dark forest, being used as a pawn by Lin Hao was hard to repair. I never expected this kid to be so lucky actually survive, in the hands of that crimson gold thunder bear, but judging by how he walked with a limp, he was probably seriously injured. Chu Feng recognized him at a glance, and his gaze instantly turned cold. Isn't this senior brother Zhao, who ran faster than a rabbit that day? Why is your leg lame, yet you still come out barking nonsense? Senior brother Zhao was momentarily stunned when he saw Chu Feng. His face immediately turned full of hatred. Alright, so it turns out it's you, the despicable and shameless wandering scholar. That day, not only did you snatch the Xuanjie spirit fruit, it almost cost me my life in the bear's mouth. Since you dare come to our Qianqian sect's territory today, don't think about making it back alive. Several disciples behind him immediately drew their long swords, surrounding us around the people. Seeing this, everyone stepped aside, afraid of getting into trouble, and I didn't even look. They kept fiddling with my iron bones. Want to buy a pot? No? Should I buy a pot? If you don't buy, don't block my business. Old man, you're looking for a disciple to die, swinging his sword down at Chao's stall, trying to split my iron pot in half. I sat motionless on the small horse gate. Chu Feng sneered and grabbed it directly. The sword that had been chopped down made a crisp crack. What did Chu Feng forcibly snap the Vajra long sword in the disciple's hand with his bare hands? The disciple retreated 2 steps in terror. Chu Feng brushed the iron filings off his hand. Even scrap metal rushes to reveal his pulse in front of my master. Senior brother Zhao's eyes nearly popped out. He had witnessed Chu Feng's terrifying strength in the forest with his own eyes and knew that these few people were no match for him. He gritted his teeth fiercely. Just you wait, if you've got guts, don't run. After saying that, he led the disciples and slunk back to the mountain gate. Mu Shui frowned at her master. If we provoke the people of the Qianqian sect, I'm afraid we'll have opponents. I yawned. Trouble is the last thing I'm afraid of in this life. Today, I just set up this stall right here. I wanted to see who dared to chase me out, and sure enough, not long after, a large group of disciples from the Qianqian sect rushed out from the mountain gate in great force. Leading the way was an elderly man with white hair, exuding a sense of reason. The terrifying pressure was actually the outer sect elder of the Qianqian sect following behind him. Except for that senior brother Zhao, there was also a familiar figure, dressed in a red dress, cold and proud. It is truly the cold autumn wind of Chu. Seeing a flash of killing intent in Lin Hao eyes, that woman, who was scheming in the forest that day, was scheming with us to look at each other. Turns out she's an old acquaintance. Lin Hao also saw us. His gaze swept over me, a trace of contempt flashing in his eyes. Then he stared intently at Chu Feng. Kid Chu Feng, who told you to run away that day. Today you actually walked right into a trap. Just hand over the wine and lust for the yuan fruit. I sat lazily on the stool and said, the fruit had long been stewed into soup by us. If you want, my disciple still has some remnants in his belly. Do you want it? Once these words were spoken, the onlookers around all gasped in shock. Is this mortal blacksmith crazy? How dare he lie to the elders of the Qianqian sect and the reincarnation of the 9 nether mysterious maiden? Lin Hao's face turned ashen, a bold madman. To actually lick heavenly treasures, how precious is the fruit of wine and beauty exchanged for the yuan? You actually use it to stew soup and suck up for heavenly treasures. I sneered. My apprentice fought desperately to snatch back the things. The apprentice fought desperately to snatch back the things he had taken. Eat however you want, none of your business. The outer sect elder shouted angrily. Excellent. An arrogant mortal. Today, I will teach you reckless fools a lesson on behalf of the heavenly way. As he spoke, he raised his hand and struck with his palm. A massive spiritual power handprint appeared out of thin air, with overwhelming momentum. He took a photo of our stall. If this strike landed, not to mention that even the ground around us would be left with a huge crater. Chu Feng shouted loudly, preparing to step forward and pull out the Mu cave head-on. that broken axe. Su Yao even swung a large iron pot directly. At this critical moment, I slowly stood up. He was still holding a broken palm fan used for fanning the air. I faced the massive spiritual power hand seal. With a casual wave of the fan, it was like swatting away flies. With a thunderous boom, that seemingly world-shattering spiritual power handprint. Under my fan, it vanished instantly. Not only that, a raging steel wind swept out in the opposite direction of the fan. He directly sent the outer sect elder flying first. The elder spat blood wildly in midair. He slammed heavily onto the mountain gate archway of Tianqian sect, the incredibly hard white marble archway. The white jade archway was smashed into cracks. The entire venue fell into dead silence. Everyone looked at it like a monster, watching me, a mere mortal, holding a broken palm fan with a fan. Yuan Ying's 7 great talents were slapped away. Is this a damn dream? Lang Qingqiu was also dumbfounded. His eternal ice lotus. At this moment, shock and fear were written all over him. He finally understood why that day I said that as long as you apprenticed under me, you would definitely make a fortune. This is not some ordinary person without any sharpness. This is definitely a peerless old monster who never appears in the world. Who exactly are you? Lang Qingqiu asked in a trembling voice. I tucked the palm fan to my waist and spread my hands. Didn't I just say? I'm just an iron pot seller. 5 yuan for a good dish, a bite of snacks. Should your Tianqian sect buy a few bites to take home and stir fry? Lang Qingqiu bit her lip, her eyes flickering. Suddenly, something occurred to him, and he actually ignored the gazes of those around him. He took 2 steps forward and bowed deeply to me. The elders kept their talents hidden, but before youth, they failed to recognize the great mountain, often offending others. I wonder if you, senior, would willingly humble yourself to come and surrender to the spirits. Our Tianqian sect is a guest. Elder Qingqiu wishes to take you as your disciple. As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd erupted in an uproar again. The majestic, mysterious maiden of the 9 netherworlds turns. It was an uproar. The mighty 9 netherworlds mysterious maiden reincarnated in heaven. Emperor Xuanzong's favored daughter. He actually volunteered to apprentice under a blacksmith. Looking at her calculating face, I sneered inwardly. This woman truly took Chu Yuan's sycophancy to the extreme. Now I know I'm amazing. Thinking about the thigh. Too late, I purse my lips. Sorry, I take on disciples based on luck. You're so ugly, which does not meet our blacksmith's aesthetic standards. Lang Qingqiu was trembling with anger. Having grown up so much, no one has ever dared to say he's ugly. This was an utter humiliation. Just as he was about to lose his temper, suddenly, a long bell rang out from deep within the Tianqian sect, immediately struck by an incredibly powerful aura, rising from the mountain peaks into the sky. He headed straight for the mountain gate, not wanting to alert the terrified crowd of the grand elders of Tianqian sect. I looked up at the dazzling lights in the sky, silently complaining to myself. If you hit the young, the old come back. If you hit the old come even older. This is the usual trick in the cultivation world. Can there still be some sincerity? But that's fine. Since things have blown up today, then they might as well have a good fight. I turned to look at Chu Feng and Mu Shue's disciples. Today, Master will teach you the most practical trick, a practical blacksmithing technique. Chu Feng and Mu Shue responded in unison. I begged the master to instruct me. He picked up the broken iron hammer he had just used to strike Liu Ruyan and slung it over his shoulder. When facing those lofty cultivators, remember, a little bit, as long as the hammer is hard enough. All flashes spells are nonsense. As soon as the words fell, those supreme elders had already landed right in front of us. They all possessed a cultivation level of Hua Xian Qi, their aura astonishing. Whoever rushed to kill the leading elder at the Tianqian sect's mountain gate glared angrily at the outer gate lying on the ground, reckless and reckless. The elder's eyes were about to shoot fire as if Lang Qingqiu was about to burst forth. Hurry up and add fuel to the fire. He recounted what had just happened. Of course, the emphasis was on how arrogant and overbearing we are. How could they not respect the Tianqian sect? After hearing this, the grand elder laughed in anger. What a hidden vision, old monster. I really want to see what kind of person you really are. After speaking, he formed a massive golden giant sword in the sky with both hands. The sword pointed straight at my brow. The divine transformation force, the power strike of the 7 great powers. The entire space was sealed off. We have nowhere to run. Chu Feng and Mu Shue, their faces pale and eyes deathly pale, still firmly blocking my way. Pale in color, yet still firmly blocking my way. At this critical moment, a sudden change occurred. Suddenly, a torrent of blood erupted from the direction of the distant small town. The sword light of the color sword light was incredibly fierce, as if it wanted to split heaven and earth in two, accompanied by a sword cry that shattered the heavens. A bronze-colored longsword, radiating overwhelming murderous intent, shooting down like a meteor. It stood directly in front of us. The branches of the sword were engraved with ancient and mysterious runes. It exudes a terrifying aura that chills your soul. It was the ancient fierce sword from my storage room. It actually broke through the seal and charged out on its own. The golden giant sword, before this fierce sword, just like paper. In an instant, the blood-red sword energy shattered it to pieces. The Grand Elder let out a muffled groan. Her face was deathly pale, and Rouge's eyes were filled with incredible fear. This is the legendary blood sword of the heavens. He actually returned to the human world. The blood-red sword circled in midair and punched once, as if searching for something. Finally, he made a fierce dive. It actually stuck straight into Mu Shue's feet. The blade emitted a joyful humming sound, as if trying to please their master. The entire venue fell into a deathly silence, leaving everyone dumbfounded. This legendary ancient fiend capable of destroying worlds. An ancient fierce sword capable of destroying worlds. She actually took the initiative to acknowledge a little firewood chopper as her master, and Mu Shue was also amazed. She stared blankly at her feet, that blood sword, radiating a terrifying murderous aura. My mind went completely blank. I amused, no wonder this broken sword is every day at midnight, ghostly wails, so he was interested in Mu Shue's 9-turn Nirvana sword bone. At least he had some insight, just as everyone was shocked by this sudden turn of events. Above the distant horizon, suddenly, a huge black fissure cracked open, a giant eye that blotted out the sky and moon, slowly opening through the cracks. His cold, merciless gaze sweeps across the earth. Finally, a voice so majestic it made people want to kneel in worship, landing on the blood sword and Mu Shui. The all-heaven sword exploded in everyone's minds. Present before all worlds before us, the divine lords of the upper realms. Such ferocious creatures must never be allowed to exist. This aura was truly terrifying. Even those supreme elders at the nascent soul stage were so oppressed that they lay on the ground, unable to move. Lang Qingqia was so terrified her face turned pale. The entire mountain of Tianqian sect was shaking violently, as if the apocalypse had arrived. Chu Feng gritted his teeth tightly. Although his bones were all set aside and sat with a clatter, he still stood upright. Her backbone was protected before Mu Shui. Mu Shui gripped the blood-red sword. Though her face was pale, but his eyes burned with the indomitable spirit of battle. I looked at that giant eye in the sky, pretending to be mysterious. Extremely impatient, he dug at his ear. That big eyeball up there, you're so noisy. My apprentice just got a new toy. What are you making a fuss about? If you don't shut up, I'll go up and gouge out your eyeballs to make Kim Kai. As I spoke, the broken iron hammer in my hand slowly emitted an extremely faint burst, but it makes the entire space feel like it's over. The stagnant black cat seems to be about to have a great battle capable of overturning the entire cultivation world. It is about to erupt between my blacksmith squad and the upper realm divine venerable. I just felt that today's evening breeze might delay the situation, which made me quite annoyed. Today, Giant Eye was clearly outwitted by my shameless words. To enrage a purple thunder valve as thick as a bucket, it slashed straight down from the crack, with the power to destroy everything. The cultivators rushing straight into my mind were terrified, screaming and struggling and scrambling into the distance. The Grand Elder closed his eyes in despair and ascended to the upper realm. Under the influence of the divine clan, no one can return alive. The entire Tianqian sect was going to be buried with Chu Feng and Mu Shui behind me. His eyes were bloodshot, ready to rush forward. Bushui's eyes blazed red, wanting to rush forward and block the lightning for me. Without even turning my head, I scolded him, telling him to stay behaving. Watch how the master forges the iron. I bent my leg slightly and pushed my waist. He swung his inconspicuous broken iron hammer at the annihilation thunder descending overhead. It was like smashing a hammer down. No earth-shattering explosions, nor are there flashy magical shadows. Only the dull, tooth-chilling sound of the impact remained. In that instant, everyone witnessed an unforgettable scene. That purple lightning, capable of piercing the earth, was like a fragile pillar of glass. My hammer smashed it into countless tiny fragments of lightning, vanishing into the air without a trace. The giant eye suddenly narrowed. It was as if he had seen something extremely terrifying, but before he could react, I take a step into the form, shooting up like cannonballs. The iron hammer in his hand followed the path of the thunder raft. He smashed it hard into the rift in the sky. This hammer took me forth for over 1,000 days. All the accumulated resentment rumbled. The entire sky seemed to be pierced through by that hammer. A scream so piercing it was almost excruciating, coming from deep within the fissure. That towering, giant eye, a burst of golden blood burst forth, like rain. Like rain, it falls on cracks in the square of Tianqian sect, rapidly closing amid violent shocks. The sky returned to calm, as if the apocalyptic scene just now was just an illusion. I floated back to the ground. He brushed the dust off his hands. Phut, what upper realm? The spirit is honored. You can't even withstand a hammer from me, yet you dare to come down and show off. The square was deathly silent. Even the wind stopped flowing. Everyone looked at it as if they were a deity. Watching my Grand Elder's legs go weak, with a thud, he knelt on the ground. The rest of the Tianqian sect disciples also knelt down in unison. In the face of this absolute strength, all that talk about sect dignity is a joke. The Grand Elder trembled all over. Cold sweat soaked through his robe. The predecessor's divine might is unparalleled. The heavenly profound sect resents the phoenix. The senior served as the Grand Guest Minister, but if you rely on orders, there will be absolutely no second words. I casually tossed the hammer into the cart and pushed it up. The cart called out, and the 3 apprentices left, heading home for dinner. In such a rundown place, even if you invite me, I won't come. Passing by Len Kinki's side, he kept his head bowed tightly, not even daring to breathe. Afraid I'd slap him to pieces, I had to deal with him. He swaggered away from Tianqian sect with his disciples. Back at Taijiang, Su Yang was defeated. Leaving Tianqian sect, returning to the blacksmith shop, Su Yao had already prepared dinner, though she didn't know where she got it. A wild chicken like a phoenix, stewed until the whole yard was filled with fragrance. At dinner that night, Mu Shui kept clutching the blood sword of the heavens, unable to put it down. Chu Feng was excitedly waving his hands and feet, competing with Su Yao to show off the heroic style I used to shatter thunder techniques during the day. Master, that hammer was so cool. Teach me. Chu Feng's eyes lit up as he said, I've added a muscle. When you can hammer 10,000 perfect nails in one go, I'll teach you. Chu Feng immediately looked grim, but his eyes were full of energy. Mu Shui looked at me, her eyes filled not only with awe but also deep dependence. He knew that if it weren't for me, he was probably still being hunted by others. This ancient fierce sword would never recognize him as its master. I eat and drink my fill, lying in a rocking chair, gazing at the stars in the sky. He was calculating his next plan. Although the system had given him many good things, but my cultivation seal has only been lifted a little. To fully unravel it, he still had to continue accepting disciples. It seems the blacksmith's life will have to go on. At that moment, the system's voice echoed again in his mind. Ding detected an ancient ruin thousands of miles away. There is a suggestion for the emergence of top-grade forging materials. Materials show suggestions. Host goes to obtain my eye-opening masterpiece. Materials, that's a great tool for forging iron. Early the next morning, I gathered my disciples, packed my bags, and prepared to go out. Master, where are we going? Chu Feng asked with a big iron pot on his back. Going mining. With a wave of my hand, I'll show you all for yourself. The true treasured ancient ruins are located in the heart of a swamp shrouded in mist all year round, a place full of dangers. Everywhere were powerful poisonous insects and fierce beasts. Normally, even the 7 golden core cultivators wouldn't dare to walk easily. The 4 of us walked through the muddy swamp. Su Yachi was on Chu Feng's neck. He was holding a candied hawthorn stick, eating with great relish. Mu Shui carried the blood sword of the heavens on her back, leading the way. Those blind demon beasts hadn't even approached yet. He was shredded into pulp by the sword energy. Suddenly, from the mist ahead, fierce fighters rang out. Some people desperately called for help. Let's take a closer look. A group of disciples dressed in Qianxian sect attire were seen, led by a dozen venomous beasts covered in bone-studded bones. The leader was none other than Lin Hao. At this moment, his entire body was filled with blood spiritual power, nearly exhausted. The long sword in his hand was also curled, and was about to starve to death. Enemies really cross paths. Chu Feng. Looks like they're about to starve truly. Enemies meet on a narrow road. Chu Feng smiled gloatingly, and I stroked my chin. Watching this scene, it's not that I'm a saint in my heart. Mainly because the skin of those poisonous crocodiles looks quite sturdy. It should be good for making an apron for blacksmithing. Chu Feng went to get a few crocodile skins back. I casually instructed, and Chu Feng chuckled. Alright, Master suddenly charged into the crocodile horde. He didn't use thunder magic and just crouched down holding his head. I'm a little mushroom. Those poisonous attacks landed on the mushroom shield. The tremendous rebound left them utterly stunned. Mu Shui took the opportunity to draw the blood sword of the heavens. With a swift rise, he struck down more than a dozen heads. The poisonous crocodile instantly turned into a headless corpse. The process lasts less than half an incense stick's time. Lin Hao and the remaining disciples of the Qianxian sect were all stunned. They fought desperately to defeat the monsters. In the hands of these two, it was like chopping vegetables. Lin Hao stared blankly at me, her eyes complicated and at the extreme humiliation and shock. More than that, there was an unmistakable desire. He staggered up to me. With a thud, he knelt down. Thank you, senior, for saving my life. Qingqiu has nothing with which to repay it. Willing to serve the elders like oxen and horses, I wave my hand. Don't be overly sentimental. These are the ones I like. I'm sentimental. I just have my eye on these few crocodile skins. It was just a casual move. Lin Hao gritted her teeth against the senior. I know I used to be blind, but I am the reincarnation of the 9 nether mysterious maiden. As long as you're willing to accept me, I can definitely help you. I rolled my eyes. 9. It's rare for a Yuxian lady to reincarnate. My eldest disciple can blow a mountain apart with a single punch. 2. The apprentice's thunder magic is immune to physical attacks. 3. The disciple wields an ancient fierce sword. Besides throwing a bad look, what else can you do? Lin Hao was left speechless by my response, her eyes reddening. He is the proud daughter of heaven. When had he ever suffered such grievances? But he knew I was telling the truth. In this blacksmith shop, his proud talent was nothing at all. I ignored him and let Chu Feng take it away. Crocodile skin continued deeper into the ruins, yet Lin Hao gritted her teeth, leading the remaining people, following far behind us. It seems he's determined to cling to us. I can't be bothered with him, as long as he doesn't get in the way. That's enough. Deep within the ruins lies a massive underground palace. Eerie and terrifying everywhere were ruins and bones, as indicated by the system's supreme materials, located deep within the palace. We fought through every level with Chu Feng's mushroom shield and Mu Shui's retreat teamwork seamlessly absolutely impressive. It was a bulldozer-like style. Finally, we arrived at the end of the palace. There are no piles of gold and silver treasures here, nor any peerless cultivation techniques. At the center of the main hall was only a huge bronze altar. On the altar was an ancient coffin covered in verdigris. The system prompted me that the material was actually this bronze coffin itself. I was wondering how to move this thing back. Suddenly, a chilling scratching sound came from inside the coffin, as if something was trying to crawl out from within. Chu Feng and Mu Shui immediately gripped their weapons tightly. Lin Hao and the others, who were following behind Lin Dodi, were so frightened that they kept retreating. At that moment, suddenly, Su Yao broke free from Chu Feng's grasp. She ran toward the coffin with her short legs. Yao came back quickly. It was dangerous. Chu Feng shouted anxiously, but I reached out to stop him, because I noticed that Su Yao's gaze had become extremely empty. It was as if he had been called by some kind of call. Su Yao walked up to the coffin, stretching out chubby little hands. He gently pressed it against the copper lid covered with a raise, and with a crack, that seal, which even a powerful nascent soul artifact master could not shake, it actually shattered inch by inch under Su Yao's hand. The coffin lid slowly slipped down. An ancient and world-old atmosphere greets us, and we explore it. The aura of wear and tears washed over us. We peeked in, but there were no bodies inside. There was only a jade pendant glowing softly and a beast-skin scroll covered in ancient script. Even stranger, a long sigh came from inside the coffin. That voice was exactly the same as Su Yao's usual voice. Only a trace of the weariness of endless years has passed. Where exactly did these ruins come from? What exactly is Su Yao's true background hiding? What kind of turmoil will the earth-shattering secret jade pendant bring to the blacksmith shop? I stroked my chin, watching Su Yao's lips gradually lighten up. A meaningful smile appeared. It seems that this ordinary life of blacksmithing, eventually, it was going to get livelier and livelier. Su Yao's chubby little hand had just touched the jade pendant that was emitting a gentle glow. The entire underground palace shook violently. The jade pendant actually transformed into a streak of light. It went straight into Su Yao's brow. The little girl blinked her big eyes and touched her forehead. It seems like there is no feeling at all. But my true eye could see clearly that the spiritual power within Chu Suya was like a volcano that had slept for millions of years. Suddenly, there was a hint of revival. The sigh of sorrow from earlier had completely vanished. Instead, it's a kind of feeling that makes you want to push it in. An ancient pressure that made one want to bow and worship. But this pressure lasted less than a second. Su Yao turned her head and gave me a silly grin. Fan, I'm hungry and want to eat roasted sweet potatoes. I let out a long sigh of relief. No matter what earth-shattering figure he was in his past life, now he is at my Lin Fan blacksmith shop, that senior apprentice who only knows how to eat. I walked over and ruffled his little head, saying, I'll roast it for you when I get home. Then my gaze fell on the huge bronze coffin, system-prompted top-grade forging materials. This is the thing. I'm worrying about how to get it back. The system in his mind chimed again. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the ancient divine artifact. The creation bronze coffin, automatically as the host, transformed into a god-level iron needle. As soon as the words fell, that massive bronze coffin, shrinking rapidly in a dazzling light. In the end, it became a square, simple, and heavy bronze iron needle, landing steadily at my feet, still bearing the mottled marks of time. I nodded in satisfaction. Although the skills this system usually gives are a bit bizarre, but the delivery was quite thoughtful. Jufeng and Mu Shui were so shocked they nearly dropped their jaws. Such a huge mysterious coffin, sealed so tightly that even the divine artifact transforming experts couldn't break it, had actually turned into a single piece. A seal that even divine artifacts and great powers cannot break. It had actually turned into a forged iron baseboard. Master, this is truly the creation of heaven and earth. Jufeng was so excited that he was speaking incoherently. I stuffed that scroll of animal hide, covered in ancient writing, into my chest. Lifting the bronze iron needle with one hand is just right for walking. Heading home. I'll make you crocodile leather aprons. Leng Qingqiu stood in a corner with the few remaining disciples of the Chenqian sect, watching us effortlessly scavenge treasures from ancient ruins, not even daring to breathe. Only after we had gone far did he grit his teeth. A hint of determination flashed in his eyes as he followed, even sweeping the floor outside the blacksmith shop. I also want to stay by that senior's side. Back to life in the blacksmith shop in the small town. It was as if peace had returned to normal. I placed the creation bronze needle in the center of the courtyard. The spiritual energy in the entire courtyard instantly increased more than tenfold. Even the crooked neck tree in the corner of the wall, nearly dying, pulled out its heart teeth overnight. A few little white flowers brimming with spiritual energy bloomed in Jufeng. Every day, bare-chested, I forge a bronze needle sweating iron, just as it starts to flow, all evaporated by that ancient aura. His sacrifice, annihilation, and thunder body unknowingly became several levels stronger. With every hammer strike, all carry faint thunder and ancient sounds. With faint thunder and ancient Buddhist chants, the neighbors in town thought our blacksmith shop had switched to performing rituals. I tossed the poisonous crocodile skins I brought back to Su Yao. He asked him to grab scissors and casually cut a few times, sewing a few apron pieces that were too miserable to look at. Jufeng and Mu Shui each got a piece of Mu Shui. Looking at the crooked piece in his hand, the crocodile leather apron still had threads, and on that cold face, he showed a rare hint of hesitation, but she still obediently put them on. But the moment I put it on, the blood sword of all heavens within him emitted an excited cry from the swordsman. What is this? A tattered apron? The poisonous crocodile skin slipped through Su Yao's small hands, imbued with the power of creation. Mu Shui had actually transformed into a top-tier inner armor that could withstand a strike from the 7 great nascent soul powers. Feeling the terrifying defense radiating from her apron, her eyes reddened again. Master has been so good to us. Even making an apron casually is such a priceless treasure. I lie on a rocking chair, fanning myself, watching them work in their awkwardly ugly aprons. Their hearts were overjoyed. What a peerless treasure. I just think sparks fly everywhere and easily burn clothes. As far as outside the gate, this added a beautiful sight. The mighty Nine Nether mysterious lady reincarnated heaven from the Xuanzong sect. The proud daughter of heaven is cold and clear in the autumn. They actually built a broken grass across from our blacksmith shop. Every day, before dawn, he gets up to help sweep the street in front of our door. He even took the initiative to take over the work of taking out the trash. The young men in town wandered the streets in a daze every day, just to catch a glimpse. This once lofty fairy, the way he sweeps the floor with a big broom. Every time Jufeng went out pounding furnace slag, he would deliberately raise the ash so high that Leng Qingqiu coughed uncontrollably. Junior sister, look at that woman still not giving up. Jufeng leaned over to Mu Shui, who was chopping firewood, winking and winking. Mu Shui didn't even glance outside at the broken axe in her hand, carrying the space-tearing sword discernment. Chop it onto a piece of black ironwood, don't get distracted. Master said, today, this batch of wood can't be chopped all up, no eating. Leng Qingqiu listened from outside, her knuckles turning white as she gripped the broom, but he forced himself to hold back his temper, because he discovered that ever since he started sweeping the floor at the blacksmith's shop, every day, absorbing the spiritual energy from the temples overflowing from the courtyard, his stagnant cultivation had actually started to loosen, which made him even more determined. The determination to cling tightly to my leg. Days pass by day like this. I check in every day to get some god-level materials, which can help me drink tea and sleep. Take some divine-grade materials, have some tea, and sleep. The cultivation seal slowly untied like a snail. I figured that if I slapped a big city stage to death now, it shouldn't be a problem, but I'm still just a mortal, without a trace of sharp fluctuations. At noon that day, the sunlight was just right. I had just finished eating the big plate chicken Su Yao made, kicking my teeth. Suddenly, dark clouds gathered in the sky, a suffocating stench of blood. In an instant, the entire town was enveloped. The once bustling street instantly became deathly silent. Lian Feng carried a nauseating smell of rust. Chu Feng was suddenly frozen while hammering. He stared intently at the sky. The hammer in his hand was gripped with deep finger marks. His eyes instantly turned bloodshot. A violent purple thundermaster erupted uncontrollably from head to toe. Zun is the voice of their Chu Feng, hoarse as if rubbed on sandpaper, carrying a hatred that is deeply etched in the heart. I sat up straight. Spit out the toothpick in your mouth, who is it? Destroy me? Chu Feng, the entire Chu family's blood fiend sect, gritted his teeth, his body trembling violently from extreme anger. I raised my eyebrows. Turns out these bastards sent 2 men with curved knives last time, coming to their deaths. This time, they actually mobilized their entire force to bring out the Yin blood from the sky. The blood-red dark cloud slowly pressed down. Hundreds of cultivators in blood-red robes appeared above the town, stepping on flying swords. Leading them was an elderly man with a gaunt face. His entire body radiated the terrifying pressure of the refining void stage. The blood energy around him even condensed into a tangible skull. In midair, the sect leader of the blood fiend sect, Shui Wuya, wailed. He looked down at the bloodshot veins below. The voice was as piercing as a broken luo, like the little remnants of the Chu family. I know you're hiding here and hand over the thing you're carrying. I can spare your whole corpse. Otherwise, today all the living creatures in this small town will be buried with you. The townspeople were so frightened that they all hid inside their houses, trembling in fear. Leng Qingqiu stood on the street holding a broom. The blood fiend sect was pale-faced. However, the most notorious demonic sect within 10,000 miles is extremely ruthless. Even the Qianqian sect was unwilling to provoke them lightly. He turned to look at the blacksmith shop, but he found the courtyard unusually calm. I stood up and stretched lazily. He walked over to Chu Feng and patted his disciple on the shoulder. Others have already hit the doorstep. Why did your hammer stop? Chu Feng suddenly turned his head, seeing my eyes filled with bloodshot tears.